is our Secretary of the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, Sean Hamilton, Eric Sutton, Executive Director of Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, Craig Miller, the Curator of Mammals at the Jacksonville Zoo, and then we have Representatives Byrd and Yarborough joining us. Jacksonville Zoo has the first ever created Manatee Critical Care Center in Northeast Florida. The center can care for 5 to 6 manatees at a time and provides temporary housing and care until they can be returned to the wild. Responding to manatees in need has been a major priority for FWC and the Manatee Rescue and Rehabilitation Partnership. Today, I'm excited to announce that when we sign the budget into law, which we'll be doing over the next few weeks, we will be approving and including more than $30 million to support efforts to protect Florida's manatees and their habitats. This is record funding. In fact, it's an increase of over $17 million over the current year funding. And this funding will do a variety of things to really continue with Florida's efforts. It will enhance and expand the network of acute care facilities like the one right here at Jacksonville Zoo to treat injured and distressed manatees. The funding will also support restoration efforts for manatee access to Florida's warm spring waters, habitat restoration in areas with high manatee populations, manatee rescue and recovery efforts, and pilot projects like the supplemental feeding that FWC conducted this past winter. Additionally, this funding supports an additional 12 positions to expand manatee rescue and response efforts. And so what we're doing in the next coming year's fiscal year's budget is building upon the $8 million investment in the current fiscal year for manatee habitat restoration projects across the state, including Warm Mineral Springs project in Sarasota County, which will improve access for manatees to this warm water habitat. The Bonefish Cove Environmental Enhancement Project in the Lake Worth Lagoon, which will restore manatee habitat, including seagrass. The Blue Spring Manatee Warm Water Habitat Enhancement Project, which will protect access to the warm spring waters and stabilize and restore the banks of the spring run. The Indian River Lagoon, FWC is cultivating seagrass to kickstart habitat restoration and expand existing seagrass nurseries. Additionally, partners within the Manatee Rescue and Rehabilitation Partnership have rescued more than 50 manatees this year, and there are a total of 71 manatees in rehabilitation facilities throughout Florida. This past winter, FWC and its partners undertook the first ever experimental feeding trial and strategically fed manatees lettuce to help curb manatee mortality. At FP&L's Cape Canaveral Clean Energy Center, a temporary field response station was set up, and staff deployed more than 200,000 pounds of produce, which fed more than 800 manatees. And so compared to last year at this time, they have recorded nearly 200 fewer manatee casualties compared to last year. And I think that we are putting our money where our mouth is on this with this record funding. It's something that we're very, very much supportive of. This is one part of a broader effort that we're making in Florida to support restoration projects and water quality projects. And so we've done a lot, including record funding into places like the Indian River Lagoon to reduce nutrients in the waterways. We've also created the wastewater grant program and established a dedicated funding source for it. So the first grant awards for the program that we announced were focused on the Indian River Lagoon. And so I'm proud of the progress that we've made over the last 4 years, and I'm glad that we are able to have really significant record amount of resources to be able to help something that's so important to our state. So we appreciate that, and we look forward to putting this money into action when the next fiscal year begins. Okay, we're going to hear from some other folks. So Sean Hamilton.
Thank you, Governor. I'm happy to be here today. As you can see, the Governor recognizes that Florida's water is fundamental to our way of life. It's essential to both the health of our environment, but also the economy and our aquatic plants and the manatees like you see behind me. So only within 48 hours of the administration being sworn in, the governor announced his bold vision for Achieve More Now for Florida's environment. The state has continued to prioritize the protection and preservation of Florida's waterways by implementing sound, science-based solutions to current and future environmental challenges. Both short and long-term strategies are in development to combat these challenges, including expanded monitoring and investment in long-term water quality improvement projects to reduce the amount of nutrients going into our waterways. Our springs, river systems, and estuaries, like the Indian River Lagoon, are home to manatees who rely on the health of these waters to live. To that end, over the past 3 years, we've invested more than $220 million in springs restoration and nearly $1 billion in other water quality improvement projects throughout the state. The 22-23 budget, which includes continued historic levels of fundings for water quality projects, will allow us to build on those efforts. Thank you, Governor, for your leadership. And with the historic levels of support and resources secured under this administration and the Florida legislature's support, we are better situated than any time in history to improve our water quality and set us on the path to restoration. So thank you.
All right. Go ahead. You want to go after Eric?
Whatever.
Okay, Eric, then Craig.
Thank you, Governor. Well said, Mr. Secretary. I'm with Eric Sutton with Florida Fish and Wildlife. And I'd just like to point out, the governor covered all of the specifics that we'll be working on, but we're very fortunate in this state in a number of reasons. One, that we have a governor and a legislature that understand the interconnectedness between water quality and the health of our fish and wildlife. That's huge. And so that gives us a great place to start from because the challenges biologically are big. So, Governor, I'd like to thank you and the legislature and your leadership for recognizing that and providing the resources necessary for the short term that you saw with the Unified Incident Command that we did with the supplemental feeding, and then the mid and the long term that we're going to have to do. And then lastly, I'd just like to say that the partnership that we have with all the zoos and aquariums are critical. They're critical for the critical care. They're critical for learning more. And right here in Jacksonville, certainly a great leader and partner in helping us to do that. So once again, thank you, Governor, for your support on this.
Okay. Craig, thank you. Yep.
Thanks very much. And on behalf of the Jacksonville Zoo and Gardens, thank you, Governor DeSantis, for elevating the importance of protecting manatees. Thank you also to the media for coming out to cover this important event. We are so proud of the work we do here at the Manatee Critical Care Center, as well as the work our response team does assisting FWC with manatee rescues. It truly is an amazing collaboration we have. We received our first 2 patients back in August of 2017, and just 2 weeks ago released our 30th manatee from the center, so we're really proud of that. We're the only acute care facility in Northeast Florida and one of only 4 in the state. We work with many excellent organizations in the Manatee Rescue and Rehabilitation Partnership, which the governor mentioned, all doing the important work to rescue, rehabilitate, release, and then monitor manatees once they're back out. The last 17 months have definitely been tough for manatees and the busiest we've ever been at our facility. The partners have worked tirelessly to save as many manatees as possible, but we know we need more space. So with that in mind, we're in the design phase to expand our manatee habitat and our rehab program, and we're getting ready to kick off the public phase of our capital campaign. Rehabbing manatees is a huge undertaking and is truly a team effort, and we rely on funding from partners, donors, and members. We know we can't save them all, for sure, but this manatee behind me, or one of the 2 behind me, you saw him swimming around, is a great example of what we can do. That's Mr. Inigo Montoya, and he was rescued from the Indian River Lagoon, starving and really unable to move. We worked with him around the clock for 3 weeks. We were with him 24/7, and now we're talking about releasing him. So a great story. So again, on behalf of the Jacksonville Zoo and Gardens, thank you again, Governor DeSantis, and to everyone working to protect manatees, Florida State Marine Mammal. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Okay, we look forward to putting this money to work. There's a lot to be done. People have worked really hard, particularly as we've seen, some of the really intense events off the coast of the Space Coast in Florida.